Easy. I got a family, mister.
They're better off without you.
The Magnificent Seven is one of the only big Western films we've had for a while. Typically, they simply don't do that well anymore. Those smaller Western-style films and of course Westworld have found success. And with Red Dead 2 round the corner, who knows, maybe we'll get something of a resurgence. The idea of Antoine Fuqua taking on the Magnificent Seven didn't bother me, and with a cast that makes good use of guys like Chris Pratt, Vincent D'Onofrio, Ethan Hawke and of course Denzel Washington, I ended up rather enjoying the film. It's nothing special, and it didn't hold up to the original for me, but I can't deny that seeing these guys in a Western setting, directed by a guy who always knows how to make at least a half-decent action film, worked. How does it hold up as an action film though? Well, for one, they've massively upped the amount of action from the original, which kind of works against the film really. Whereas in the original the fighting only came when it felt really needed, and the characters seem to have something of a distaste for it, here they get as much in as possible. It makes the film feel less like an epic western and more of an Expendables type action film. Though this is a better film sadly than any of the Expendables films, it pains me to say. Maybe they should get Fuqua to do the fourth one they just announced. Actually, yeah, please hire him to do the next Expendables film. At least here the film lets quite a lot of the team die, and you can't really work out who will go and when particularly easily, something a film like The Expendables, a film about expendable people, seems to get wrong. I like the camaraderie between the guys too, and by simply hiring some good actors who fit their roles well, and you end up enjoying spending time with, I didn't want them to die. Simply by having some decent characters, I cared a little more, and thus there was a little more tension through the action scenes. But then technically, how does the action hold up? Well, it is pretty average. Early on you get this sequence which for me was pretty hard to follow. It's in a pretty well established open space and yet still fluffed up the geography. In a film like Open Range, which I consider as having one of the best gunfights on screen, they were able to keep it all both exciting and tense, and easy to follow. Here, it's just cut too damn quickly. They don't make it too shaky or anything, but instead just shoot from so many angles that even in such an open, brightly lit setting, it's too chaotic. I think a bit of the problem was trying to adhere to a PG-13 rating. Open Range and Unforgiven, for example, didn't have that issue, and so didn't have to cut around anything. The original film was pretty much bloodless, so they too held back from cutting too much. They didn't really need to bother. That was how films at the time were. Open Range, Unforgiven, and the original Magnificent Seven, two weren't action films, but instead just films with action sequences, and I think that is an important distinction. This is a glossy, big-budget action film, maybe more so than a western. It is in a western setting, yes, but where, for example, Hell or High Water is a western in everything but era, this instead uses the tropes of a western, but is definitely made the way modern action films are. There is a lot of coverage. There is a strict adherence to a less restrictive rating. They even colour the blood that is there down to this weird muddy brown, sort of the way Kill Bill's original trailers did to get to be seen by all audiences. It lends all of the action, even the bits that work better, an artificial feel that along with the glossy style of it, feels sort of weird in such a gritty, old school setting. Like I said though, some of the action does work. Anything not involving guns, such as anything close quarters or with arrows, where you don't expect to see as much blood, is easy to follow. And by the final action sequence, as it is supposed to be drawn out, and I expect more care was taken with geography simply because of how many people there are fighting on various fronts, it becomes less chaotic. Even though they all wear very similar clothes, I did actually find the heroes pretty easy to discern from one another in the big final battle. Basically, if you're coming to the Magnificent Seven expecting a classic western the equal of the original film, then you're gonna be disappointed. And if you're hoping for something as violent and easy to follow as some of Fuqua's other works, such as The Equalizer, then again, you're not gonna have the best time. If you go in expecting a decently well-made action flick that's an effortless watch and absolutely as cliched as one would expect, then you'll have a good time. They put a bit more effort into the action scenes in this one than a lot of blockbusters these days, and if you stick with it till the final battle, you'll get the best large-scale western action at least I've seen since The Lone Ranger. There just are better action sequences out there.